Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Jonathan Gresham asks for his AEW Ring of Honor release and cusses out Tony Khan.
Yeah, I've got all the latest on the backstage meeting between Gresham and Tony Khan.
We have a backstage update on AEW's talent relations process.
And it looks like Tully Blanchard is gone from Ring of Honor. I'm Adam Wilborn.
And I'm Andy Murray.
Quiet weekend, was it? And this is the news.
Yeah, we got 2 news videos coming up today because, unless you were... let's be honest, you'd have to be dead to not notice the stories that dropped over the past few days. We got the fallout from Vince and stuff. A WWE-centric video coming later today, but for now we're going to talk AEW and get these stories covered first of all. Jonathan Gresham requested his release from AEW/Ring of Honor prior to Death Before Dishonor, where of course he lost the Ring of Honor World title to Claudio Castagnoli in the opening match. It was 11-12 minutes. It was a short match by world title standards, but Fightful Select came through with the report revealing that Gresham had requested his release earlier in the day and that there was a lack of communication between Ring of Honor and their former world champion leading into the show. That was a bone of contention. He felt disrespected by that, and the short runtime for that world title match was apparently a tipping point as well. It's indicated in the report that during a meeting with Tony Khan, that you're going to go into a bit more detail on, Gresham cussed him out. So clearly quite a heated thing going on here. And several talent confirmed that this encounter took place. Now, whether or not Gresham has actually been granted his release, we don't actually know yet. However, it was reported as part of this Fightful write-up that he is done with wrestling for the foreseeable future. He has deactivated his Twitter account. He has deactivated the Terminus Twitter account as well, which is his promotion. Yeah. They had a show like 3 days ago or so, 4 days ago, whatever. That's wild how kind of quickly this happened. But of course, on the Ring of Honor show, we saw he was thrown on with Tully Blanchard after the heel turn and all that stuff. On the Ring of Honor show, Prince Nana was like, hey, I've bought Tully Blanchard Enterprises and now it's the Embassy again, which I popped for because I'm a Ring of Honor mark and I love all that nostalgia stuff. But it was kind of all over the place. So yeah, Fightful reached out to Tony Khan and Ring of Honor. They've heard nothing in response. Gresham, of course, he signed a long-term deal. He was the Ring of Honor champion when Khan took over. He had that kind of sort of unification match-ish thing with Bandito. He signed that contract. Now he wants out of it. Tweeted about this a bit last night, but we'll get into it once you've done your story.
Yeah, exactly. We'll give our thoughts once we've provided this update, which also comes through Fightful Select. A shout out to Sean Ross Sapp. No crap, just Sapp. Sean Ross Sapp off Fightful Select. As Andy mentioned, there was cussing out of Tony Khan backstage. Apparently, the conversation with Khan was going to remain confidential, but it got so heated, everyone in the arena could basically hear it, including security. Now, apparently, Gresham had quite productive meetings with QT Marshall during the week, also been in contact with Sonjay Dutt, but allegedly, his frustration with his whole position within Ring of Honor stems from creative, which, of course, is Tony Khan's area of expertise. He basically was trying to have a meeting with Tony Khan. There was issues, and it only went down a few hours, as Andy mentioned, before Death Before Dishonor. And apparently people close to Gresham, people on the AEW side I should say rather, believe that his mind was kind of made up going into the meeting. He's always had this passion and real self-belief and dedication to Ring of Honor, and he got very heated in there. A very different vision to Tony Khan's, basically, in summary. They disagreed, the two parties did, on topics like Gresham turning heel on AEW TV, and then aligning with Tully Blanchard Enterprises. This seems to become a regular thing now, Andy, in terms of when people depart from either AEW or Ring of Honor, depart from a Tony Khan promotion. The issue is not, necessarily mismanagement or you're fired or anything like that. It's the lack of communication. Yes. We've heard this several times now.
Yeah, and I'll dive into that a bit more in my next story here as well. But yeah, this is a trend now. It's not just like one person going, this happened. Joey Janela said it. Marco Stunt said that he was effectively ghosted. Brian Cage, when his contract was renewed, seemed quite surprised about it himself on social media. So there's clearly something there that the company needs to work on and needs to brush up on. And yeah, we'll talk about the talent relations process in a minute. With regards to Gresham, I get it. I totally get it.
Absolutely.
His presentation on television hasn't been great. the kind of turn came a little bit out of nowhere, and then I can absolutely see where he's coming from with the manager thing, and like he's lying with Tully 1 minute, and then oh no, we're doing Prince Nana and Tully's no longer. We'll talk about him in a minute as well. All these stories fit together quite wonderfully. But yeah, no, like I respect Jonathan Gresham immensely, both as an in-ring performer and also for standing up for himself and knowing his value and saying, hey, I'm worth more than this. What's going on here? The match was short, by world title standards. Was that to the match's detriment? Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. I think it could have done with being a bit longer myself, as much as I enjoyed the show as a whole. But yeah, man, like I respect Jonathan Gresham immensely. Hope he's doing okay coming out of this, of course, and yeah, there we go.
Yeah, my limited knowledge of Ring of Honor prior to the purchase by Tony Khan is basically Jonathan Gresham was Mr. Ring of Honor. His dedication was never under question.
Back,
absolutely,
really.
He boasted and had this long title reign, but you could tell his passion, as mentioned, for the product. And at the end of the day, Tony Khan's come in and he's no doubt got a vision for it, and that's completely up to him. But if that doesn't gel with your world champion, or you have different plans for whatever you had for Gresham going forward, it makes sense that he would ask for his release.
Yeah, and maybe like career-wise, if he does choose to come back to wrestling, and I hope he does, because he's very talented.
Oh god, he's unbelievably talented.
Tremendous technician. Perhaps career-wise, he'll find somewhere that's a better fit for him. Maybe he'll go to Japan. Maybe he'll go down to Mexico or somewhere, or just like work 5 million indies every week, like a lot of folk do. Maybe he'll find somewhere that just fits him a little bit more.
Maybe he'll go to WWE now. The person in charge doesn't value you have to be over like 6.5 foot tall to be successful.
Well, once they see his octopus mask thing, they're gonna go, "You're a squid now, pal." I can't remember who it was, but someone on my timeline tweeted his ring name would be 10 Tackle. Which is tremendous. I think it was James Van Der Beek. I'm not sure. Someone funny. But yeah, props for that. Right, we'll talk about the talent relations process then. Seeing as communication would be part of that, and it's something that's come up. Fightful Select, in their second Jonathan Gresham report, kind of went into the details here a little bit. And yeah, this is kind of how things work backstage. So typically, if a wrestler has something they want to bring up, the preferred approach is that they go to someone on the coaching team in AEW. This is the preferred process, and if it's related to booking, that will then be passed on to Tony, who has the final say on creative. He's of course the CEO of AEW and Ring of Honor now. Tony then determines whether or not he feels like the dozens of ideas that are passed on to him fit, and then the answer will be sent back to the wrestlers. So it sounds like you go to one person, they go to Tony. There's kind of like a middleman type deal going on there. Now, as well as AEW's coaching staff, you have Head of Talent Relations Christopher Daniels, QT Marshall, and Pat Buck. They're involved in this process as well, along with Executive Mega Parek and Sanjay Dutt, who combines a backstage role with an on-screen role as well, of course.
Always got a pencil behind his ear just in case.
There you go. And Khan is believed to be in contact with the latter two, that being Mega and Sanjay, at least 10 times daily, according to Fightful in this report. Now, Khan has talked to talent directly countless times in the past, although this has declined somewhat since they moved out of Daly's place as a consequence of just you're traveling more and it's a bit more hectic, the world is changing, all of that stuff. Now, Joey Janela, who we spoke about earlier, who was let go by AEW earlier this year, offered some thoughts on the process on Twitter last night and said it's not really Tony's job, it's talent relations. I'm sure if I texted Tony, I would have gotten a text back or a phone call, but I wasn't really trying to push a new deal with other negotiations in place. Talking about how his contract wasn't renewed and stuff. Communication could definitely be better. Never said that Tony was a ghost, and that's in quotations. And Janela did tell Fightful as well that prior to him leaving, he didn't reach out to the coaching team as well. So it sounds like Joey was kind of like quite okay with leaving and didn't want to go, hey guys, when am I getting a new deal or whatever. So there you go. That's just an interesting bit of insight into how this process works. I think you have to have ladders of communication in place, but this communication thing does seem like me to be something they need to address. Yes,
exactly. There is a structure in place, as you mentioned there, and at the end of the day, as much as I can sit here and say, oh well, Tony Khan should have spoken more to Jonathan Gresham, that boy is spinning a lot of plates right now.
He's the plate master.
Yeah, so it's one of those where I've got to echo what you say. I can sympathise a little bit with, like you say, if you've got 20 different people wanting to change certain elements of their storyline, or ask about their contracts or whatever like that. There's only so much you can deal with. But you're completely correct. Possibly this way of the working might need to be looked at.
Yeah.
This is several times now we've heard this from talent.
Yeah, and I'm sure like running a wrestling promotion isn't easy, especially when you're running two and a football club and you're on the Jacksonville Jaguars board or whatever, and you run an analytics company. He's got a lot on, but at the same time, you got to look after your people, particularly when they're on the way out and stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, I really wish this Gresham scenario hadn't panned out the way it did, but it has now, and we look at the next steps.
Exactly, and we'll provide any updates as and when we get them. But speaking of people on their way out, the final piece of the news jigsaw is dropping into place because Tully Blanchard may be done in Ring of Honor. As Andy mentioned, it was revealed on the Death Before Dishonor pay-per-view that Tully Blanchard Enterprises has been acquired by Prince Nana, who was
I love Prince Nana, man.
taking control of it all. And Fightful Select also provided an interesting report that Tully wasn't at the pay-per-view, although the reason for that is kind of up in the air. Some people think it's because he missed his travel. Some people thought it was because there was confusion about travel. Fightful themselves were told that Blanchard's prison ministry group was cited as why he wasn't present for the show. And some people just said he no-showed the pay-per-view. Yeah. Brian Cage posted an interesting tweet as well with a selfie with his shirt on saying, oh, well,
so much for Tully Blanchard.
Here today, gone tomorrow, sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's a shame because I was getting quite excited about. You look at the line of those massive bastards and the world champion as they had
yeah.
it, and it seemed to have a really intriguing amount of potential. You know, Tully Blanchard isn't the voice on the stick that he once was, but he always can provide an element of gravitas, I found.
Yeah, sure. This is an interesting thing as well because Tony Khan commented during the post-show press scrum, just talking about how Tully was doing really well outside of wrestling and stuff. So that's obviously good. Tully's had an interesting AEW run for me. I think like early on, I thought he was tremendous when he was doing like the negotiations for Sean Spears and all of that stuff. And like his return match, it's not the kind of thing you go, that was the match of the year, but how much fun was that? Like, he was doing his first match in years and years and years, and, he's had his troubles later in his wrestling career, going back decades and stuff, and it was just fun. It was awesome. I
remember him bollocking Sean Spears on, like, a road tour or something.
Shredded him, didn't he?
It was so good.
When Spears' character was kind of, like, fanning around a bit. But I do think that, and it's understandable because he's been in wrestling for ages and he's an older guy now, I do think that his performances have declined a little bit over the past year or so, maybe not as compelling a talker as he was. He's always going to have that gravitas, as you say. It's Tully Blanchard. He's one of the most sinister pro wrestling heels of all time. I love, in particular, his stuff in like Crockett in the mid-'80s and stuff. I'm a nerd for that, all those bits and pieces. Like the Magnum TA feud is mwah.
Yeah.
But, even at like Supercard of Honor when he was cutting his promo and stuff, it was like, this isn't quite fitting together. And that happens, with time. So best wishes to Tully. I enjoyed his AEW run, his Ring of Honor run. It's kind of a shame how sudden everything has happened here again, but there you go.
Yeah, intriguing to see what happens next with Ring of Honor, TV deals, etc. We'll keep you posted on everything. Make sure you keep your eyes on WhatCulture.com as well for any updates on that too. Let's move on to your Twitter questions though. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. John Harrison starts us off writing, "Good Monday, chaps." With a big Vin Cheezel stepping down.
Vin Cheezel?
Will WWE start to acknowledge other promotions? They dropped New Japan and Ring of Honor references on SmackDown. Do you think more references are to come, e.g. Cody in AEW?
Vin Cheezel. Tremendous. Wow. Maybe there'll be a bit more loose. I'm not sure it'll lead to anything more concrete. I believe we have a second question on that, so I won't dive too much. But yeah, maybe a wider acknowledgement of the wrestling world as a whole. Vince has always been very insular. There was Dave Meltzer commented on Wrestling Observer Radio that there's a belief within WWE that things like using stupid language to describe things will maybe decline a bit now. So hopefully that'll be part of it. I for me, just want people to behave like humans on wrestling shows. And look, if this guy's a former IWGP heavyweight champion, he's won it 12 times or whatever. No one has, but that's beside my point. Yeah. It makes sense to celebrate those things. It makes sense to go, AJ Styles was a legend in Impact, he was a legend in New Japan, and now he's here. Like, all of that thing... Connect.
Yes. It always struck me as weird that they were like, Cody was here, then he was Stardust, then he disappeared, did nothing for so many years, and then came back as this insanely rounded, world champion.
How'd he get better when he didn't wrestle for 6 years?
But honestly, watching Friday was a wild night. Like, all the news broke obviously late here in the UK, and then all of us were like, oh man, does this mean we have to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch SmackDown? I'll be honest, I watched like the first bit and fell asleep pretty much straight after with Happy Corbin. Just, this is Sparta! To Pat McAfee. That was enough for me. But yeah, hearing Xavier Woods drop references to Ring of Honor and the IWGP tag titles and stuff like that, I was like, oh. And then the bit where Michael Cole said the word fans, I nearly fell out of my chair.
Yeah, man.
So, you're telling me there's a chance?
That would be nice. Like,
we're going to get belts. We're
wrestlers,
going to get wrestlers,
ambulances.
Oh, local medical
Wait,
facility.
they say ambulance, don't they?
Yeah. Well, a sort of follow-up question. This comes from Steve, who says, Wardlow says he'd beat the shib out of anyone in any locker room. Bobby Lashley says he's the best US champ in any promotion. Vince is gone, and there's references to other promotions on WWE. Forbidden Door 2?
Nah, never in a million years.
I think it's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I could see why people might lean towards thinking like something like that might be a bit more possible. But the thing I always go back to with this, and this is years and years when we were talking about who's going to succeed Vince as the
squeaky boy
boss, and now it's actually happened. Who did Stephanie McMahon, Triple H, and various other people? Who did they learn everything they know about running a wrestling promotion from? Vince McMahon. So. WWE historically has not played well with other promotions, so it's not something I want to see happening. No. Even beyond the obvious appeal of, like, I don't know, Seth Rollins versus Kenny Omega, whatever dream match you want to come up with. I don't want to see it, and I don't think it will happen. We're not going to open up to that extent, I don't think.
No, I think it will get better if that's something you. I mean, if you don't, I don't know what you're so fed-pilled. It's ridiculous. I think things will get better. Like you say, I think the language will change, and I think they will be open to doing more stuff, a la having Mickie James in the Women's Royal Rumble. Sure. But I don't anticipate them saying, should we co-promote a show with our biggest rivals? It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
they were only going to work with New Japan just to screw over AEW. So,
and I think Nick Khan in particular seems quite focused on just making WWE as huge.
Exactly.
As possible. So don't forget, he's the co-CEO in all of this.
Yes.
Well, so.
What a few years it's been for him.
Well, he's Scrooge McDuck these days, isn't he, man?
What.
Some boy. What's going on?
Sasu gives us our final question of the day. He says, hi, Andy Murray and Adam Wilborn. Do you think Vince's boys, that's Dunn and Pritchard here, will leave in the coming future? In my opinion, until they are out, it's still Vince's era.
Yeah, so, like, and I'll stress that this is just me speculating rather than, I don't want people to, like, invest too much into my thoughts on this, but I don't think Kevin Dunn's long for this world. Like, going back years, the reports have been that Stephanie and Triple H don't like him very much, so I think his style of production is a major issue with the modern WWE product. I hate the cuts, I hate the zooms. There was a backstage brawl on SmackDown this week where he just can't help himself zooming in and out and going
crazy. It's a good
crazy.
brawl as well, the Corbin McAfee one.
Yeah,
it was
and
a
then
good brawl.
Pat came back and cut this awesome fired up promo
Bitch.
and stuff. Like, it was really great, apart from the way it was shot.
Yeah.
That change is overdue. As far as Bruce goes, yeah, you're dead right. Like, if creative is handed to him, nothing's gonna change. Like, it's gonna be the same nonsense over and over and over again. So I can definitely envision a future where both of them are no longer part of the higher up process, particularly Kevin Dunn. And again, I'll stress that's just my opinion.
I think Dunn will be gone by the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I think Pritchard, he's going to be clinging on for all he's worth. Yeah. And
Lucy Brucey.
Goodness, like I skipped into work today because even just this week, like we're on the week to SummerSlam, so we've got this mad Raw at MSG with all this stuff going down.
Sold out.
Celebration. You've got Roman being there. You've got all this mad bollocks. What's NXT 2 gonna look like now? There's Go Home SmackDown, then SummerSlam. It is a fascinating week to be a wrestling fan.
And then next week, palate cleanse, because all your big programs conclude at SummerSlam. What are these wacky people going to come up with without Vince there? What a weird, fun, fascinating, complicated time to be alive.
Oh, honestly, it's amazing. Almost as amazing, Andy Murray, as Today's and Finally, which I think you've got, but I've got one, and just in case. What have you got?
I got a different one that we'll do in the second video.
Okay, well, Today's and Finally that I found for you is, thank you to everyone who sent this to us, by the way. Obviously, William Regal over the weekend went to some reptile place because he loves reptiles. Obviously, if you've seen him, following him on social media, you know all about this. And there was an animal he was with that he named, and I've literally never heard of what it was before. It was called like a snib or something, right? He was hanging out with like snakes. He was hanging out with like weird geckos and stuff. And then, of course, he was hanging out with the flat.
Oh, of course he was.
Little one, just a little one.
It's smiling for the camera
But
as well.
you know, game recognised game. It's we could get one of them for the office if they're that small.
Yeah, they don't get any bigger, do they?
No, exactly.
Yeah, just have
Keep it in a little tank back here.
Yeah, very humane.
You know, like Paul the Octopus used to predict the World Cup.
Yeah.
We could just get the Flat F to predict world title matches.
Frankie the Flatty to.
I'm just gonna email. Just get how much to cost something like that out.
Yeah. Can we expense
What do they live in?
that?
A vivarium? No, that's something else, isn't it?
A swamp.
We'll make the studio.
We'll make
into
the
a
swamp.
We'll make-
Actually, some parts of the surroundings are kind of like a swamp.
Yeah. Welcome to Gateshead,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen. I love living in Gateshead, by
I've
the way.
lived here for 5 years. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But some parts of it are a bit swampy.
And some of the Rajis could do with meeting up with the Flat F. That's
Oh
what I'm
boy.
saying.
Right into work.
Let us know your thoughts on that and all today's news. Imagine riding to work on that. Anyway,
Like Flight of the Valkyries playing.
like, share, subscribe.
Here comes the flat.
Subscribe to What Culture Wrestling wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. We're reviewing SmackDown and Rampage and looking ahead to what the hell's going to happen on this week's Monday Night Raw a little bit later on today. As Andy mentioned, we'll be back in just a few hours, talk all the WWE news. But if you want to send us thoughts or Twitter questions at WhatCultureWWE on Twitter, watch there. Follow both of us. Follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for honor. You know, like we've had to come on and like the Gresham situation really sucks, but the pay-per-view was really awesome, and you should check it out if you haven't already. Just like a wall-to-wall excellent show.
Just wish they knew how to spell honor, you know. Spell it properly, Americans. There's a U in there,
Get
idiots.
you out.
Follow me at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at What Culture WWE. We'll be back in a few hours. My thanks to Andy. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.